GuitarLessons.com, the #1 name in guitar lessons online.
Hey guys, welcome back, and you should be excited if you don't know any chords yet, and if these are the first chords that you're going to know, because these two chords you will be using for the rest of your life on the guitar. So this should be a really exciting time for you. The first thing I'm going to explain to you as far as chords go is how to read a chord diagram. Now if you don't know what that is, you've probably seen one before in some sheet music or some tab or something like that. Basically, it's 6 vertical lines that represent the 6 strings on the guitar, and sometimes they'll have, who knows, 3, 4, 5 horizontal lines, and those represent the frets. So with that in mind, strings go this way, frets go this way generally on a chord diagram. With that in mind, let's learn a G chord, a G major chord, and we'll go through a chord diagram and I'll explain how that works to you, and at the same time we'll be learning a G major chord. So a lot of times when you see a chord diagram, you'll see at the top there'll be like a block or something that represents the nut of your guitar down here. And a lot of times that'll be a reference point for you, and there won't be any numbers on usually the left side of the diagram that indicate what fret you should be on. The nut just represents kind of like a 0. So if you see a chord diagram like this G chord diagram, you see the nut on top of the little block, you count up 3 frets, and you're going to see, I'm going to teach you the G chord that I don't play but that a lot of beginners learn. You're going to see a 2 on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. That is telling you that you need to put your 2nd finger, 2, on the 3rd fret, 1, 2, 3, of the 6th string, the low E string. That's your first note in your G chord. Usually I get this one with my 3rd finger, but a lot of players get it with their 2nd finger. So I'm going to teach you that way because it's a little bit easier. You don't have to use your pinky in this one. So on the chord diagram, the next note we're going to worry about, you're going to see a 1 on, if you're looking at your horizontal, your vertical lines, you're going to see a 1 on the 2nd fret of the next string over. It would be your A string. So put your 1st finger on the 2nd fret, 1, 2, of the A string. So those 2 notes are your 2 notes you have in your G major chord so far. The next 3 strings over, you're not going to see any numbers on the actual strings, but you will see 3 O's or zeros at the top of the next 3 strings over, the D, the G, and the B. And when you see a 0 or a circle at the top of the nut, above the nut, that just means that you should play those strings open. And the final note for our G major chord is going to be, you're going to see a 3 on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. So you're going to put your 3rd finger on the 1, 2, 3rd fret of the high E string. And that's going to be every note in your G major chord. So that may take you a while to get those on there, but once you have it on there, strum all 6 strings. Remember the downstrokes we did? Just give all 6 strings a good downstroke strum. Do that a couple times. Now, yours may sound like this, and that's okay. I mean, cut yourself some slack, you're just learning this. So take that off, put it on again, 2nd finger, 3rd fret of the 6th string, 1st finger, 2nd fret of the A string, the D, G, and B strings you're just going to leave open, and then your 3rd finger is going to come grab the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now remember what I told you in the last lesson, how to have good posture, have with your left hand, bring it straight up, relax, not kinked one way or the other, and to come straight down on your fingertips and curve your fingers over. That's why I told you this, because if you're getting this kind of a noise, that's because your fingers aren't curved over enough. And see how my middle finger right here is kind of laying over those strings? That finger is just muting all these strings in between here, and this index finger, if it wasn't curved over enough either, it would be muting the strings below it too. So work on curving your fingers around to where they only touch the strings that they're supposed to be, so they don't mute any of the surrounding strings. That's a big deal, and don't kink your wrist over too much that way when you're trying to curve your fingers around. and don't kink it too much this way, or your fingers are just going to automatically just lay down and you won't get any sound out of the strings. So work on this chord every day until you have it memorized. And let's go ahead and jump to a D chord. Now, as far as chord diagrams go, another thing that you're going to need to be aware of is the X's that occur above the note. You know how we had O's or zeros above the note? That meant to play that string open. If you have an X above one of the strings, that just means to not play that string at all. So on the D string, or sorry, on the D chord, you're going to have two X's, one above the E string and one above the A string. So that just means lay out on those, don't play those at all. You're going to see an O above the D string or the fourth string. That, of course, means you need to play it open. You're going to see a 1 on the second fret of the G string or third string. Then you're going to see a 3 on the third fret of the B string. That means you need to put your third finger, third fret, the B string. And the final note in the chord is going to be a 2 on the second fret of the first string. 2 on the second fret of the first string. So that puts your second finger right there, second fret of the first string. And remember, the two X's above the E and the A means don't play those, so you're only going to play the top 4 strings. I know it seems like when I say top 4 strings, top would be this way, but I'm referring to this string, the high E string, as the first string. So the top 4 strings would be the D, the G, the B, and the E. So give those 4 strings a strum with that chord held down. Do that again. Now again, yours may sound like this, kind of jumbly and not quite all as defined as it should. If that's the case, make sure you're coming around on the tips of your fingers and make sure that you're having a good, nice relaxed posture with your left hand, and try again. So those are 2 of the chords that we need in order to play the song that we're going to learn, and you learn how to read some chord diagrams. I'll see you in the next lesson where we're going to learn the 2 remaining chords that we need to know to learn a song.